Captain Jake Morrison stared at the coffee stain on his console and wondered if he should clean it. The small Earth defense vessel Frontier hummed quietly as it drifted near Pluto's orbit. This was his third month of patrol duty, and nothing ever happened out here on the edge of the solar system. The most exciting thing he had seen was a broken satellite from the mining operations. His crew of 12 was getting restless. Lieutenant Sam Torres had started a betting pool on how many asteroids they would count today. Engineer Pete Wilson was teaching the new guy, Danny Foster, how to play poker with ration packets. It was boring work, but someone had to watch the outer system. Jake sipped his terrible coffee and checked the sensors again. Empty space in all directions. Earth Command kept these patrols running because they said someone needed to watch for trouble. What kind of trouble could come from empty space? The nearest known alien life was bacteria on some moon around Jupiter. The sensor board lit up like a Christmas tree. Jake nearly dropped his coffee. 12 massive shapes appeared on his screen, materializing out of nothing. They were huge, easily 10 times the size of his little frigate. The ships had a strange design with curved hulls and glowing lines running along their sides. They arranged themselves in a perfect circle around the frontier. "Captain," Sam Torres called from her station, voice tight with shock. "Those ships just appeared out of nowhere. They're surrounding us." Jake felt his heart race, but his voice stayed calm. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Send an emergency signal to Earth Command." The largest alien ship sent a communication beam toward them. Jake nodded to Danny Foster at the communications console. "Put them through." The main screen flickered and showed a creature that made Jake's skin crawl. It looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect with 4 arms and glowing yellow eyes. When it spoke, the translation system made its voice sound cold and mechanical. "Primitive vessel, this is Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Confederation. Your species has been selected for integration into our empire. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the destruction of your world." Jake looked around at his crew. Sam Torres was pale but ready at the weapons console. Pete Wilson had stopped joking and was watching the engine readings. Danny Foster was young and scared but stayed at his post. These were good people. Earth people. And some alien bug was threatening their home. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. The alien admiral appeared on screen again, probably expecting fear or begging. Jake had seen that look before on the faces of bullies back in school. "Admiral Kethvar," Jake said in a steady voice. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You picked the wrong species to threaten." The alien's 4 arms moved in what might have been confusion. "You are surrounded by superior firepower. Your primitive technology cannot harm our vessels. Surrender now." Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "You know what the difference is between humans and every other species you've probably met?" "Explain," the alien said, sounding curious despite itself. "When you threaten us, we don't ask how many of you there are. We don't calculate odds. We don't try to negotiate." Jake reached over and activated the emergency beacon that would alert every human military installation in the solar system. "We make sure you regret it." The alien admiral's eyes widened. "You cannot possibly believe you can defeat our fleet with that small vessel. Watch me." Jake turned to his crew. "Sam, lock weapons on their flagship. Pete, prepare to overload the reactor core. Danny, make sure that emergency signal is broadcasting on all frequencies." "Captain," Sam said quietly, "if we overload the reactor, I know." Jake looked at each of his crew members. Earth needs to know what's coming, and these things need to learn that threatening humanity is a very bad idea. The alien ships began moving closer, probably planning to capture the frontier intact. Jake could see smaller ships launching from the alien vessels. Ready to board his ship. "Sir," Pete Wilson called from engineering. "Reactor overload ready in 30 seconds. Sam, target their biggest ship. All weapons. Weapons locked on target, sir." Jake thought about his sister back on Earth, probably getting ready for work at the hospital. He thought about his nephew who wanted to be a spaceship captain when he grew up. He thought about billions of humans who had no idea that alien monsters were about to attack their world. "Fire everything we have," Jake ordered. The frontier unleashed its full armament at the alien flagship. Missiles, plasma bolts, and railgun rounds hammered into the alien ship's shields. The weapons did some damage, but not enough to stop the massive vessel. "Incoming transmission," Danny reported. Admiral Kethvar appeared on screen again, now looking angry. "Your pathetic attack has accomplished nothing except to ensure the destruction of your world. You're wrong, Jake said. My attack accomplished exactly what I wanted. Captain, Pete called out, 10 seconds to reactor overload. Jake grabbed the ship's intercom. All hands, it's been an honor serving with you. Earth will remember what we did here today. He looked back at the alien admiral. You want to know what you accomplished by coming here? You just taught humanity that we're not alone in the universe, and that there are things out there that want to hurt us. The alien's expression changed to something that might have been concern. What are you doing? I'm showing you the first rule of fighting humans, Jake said. We would rather die fighting than live as slaves. He slammed his hand down on the manual control override. The Frontier accelerated directly toward the alien flagship. The massive ship tried to move away, but the small human vessel was too fast and too close. Jake's ship smashed into the alien hull just as the reactor reached critical overload. The explosion lit up space for 1,000 kilometers. The alien flagship broke apart, its shields overwhelmed by the nuclear fire that consumed it. 2 other alien ships were caught in the blast, their hulls cracked and burning. Admiral Kethvar, now aboard a different ship, stared at the expanding cloud of debris where the human vessel had been. His officers reported massive damage to 3 ships and the complete loss of the flagship. Admiral, one of his officers said, voice shaking. No species has ever responded to our arrival with immediate suicide attack. This was completely unpredictable. Kethvar looked at the human solar system on his display. The emergency beacon from the destroyed ship was still broadcasting, sending warnings deeper into the system. Soon every human military base would know about the attack. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should reconsider our approach to this species. But it was too late. The message was already spreading through human space. Earth had been threatened, and now every human in the solar system knew that monsters were coming. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Dominator, and tried to forget the image of a human ship deliberately destroying itself to hurt his fleet. 3 days had passed since the encounter at the edge of the human solar system. 3 days for him to convince himself that the human captain's action was the desperate move of a primitive species facing superior technology. His invasion fleet was impressive by any measure. 200 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. Support vessels carrying ground troops and occupation equipment. This force had conquered 12 different worlds for the Zephyrian Confederation. The humans would be number 13. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, we are approaching the inner system. No sign of defensive forces. Kethvar studied the display showing the human solar system. The third planet, Earth, was a blue and green world that reminded him of several other planets his people had conquered. The humans had some bases on their moon and a few space stations, but nothing that could threaten his fleet. Where are their ships? He asked. Sensors show no vessels larger than civilian transports, sir. It appears they have withdrawn all military forces to the planet's surface. This made sense to Kethvar. Primitive species often made the mistake of thinking they could defend their homeworld from the ground. They never learned that space superiority meant victory. Begin the approach to their world. Prepare landing forces. The Zephyrian fleet moved deeper into the solar system, passing the outer planets without seeing any resistance. Kethvar felt his confidence returning. The human captain who had destroyed his ship was clearly an exception. Most humans would respond like every other species they had encountered, with fear and eventual surrender. Colonel Lisa Hayes watched the alien fleet approach from her command center deep inside the moon. Around her, hundreds of technicians monitored displays showing the positions of every enemy ship. She had been waiting for this moment since Jake Morrison's final message reached Earth Command 3 days ago. Colonel, her tactical officer reported, the alien fleet is entering the kill zone. Lisa studied the holographic display that showed their solar system. The alien ships were arranged in a standard invasion formation, moving steadily toward Earth. They had no idea what was waiting for them. All stations. This is Hayes. Prepare to execute Operation Thunderbolt. Across the solar system, hidden installations came to life. On the lunar surface, camouflaged hatches opened to reveal massive railgun batteries. Deep inside asteroids, missile silos prepared to launch. Space stations that looked like civilian mining operations transformed into weapons platforms. The humans had spent 50 years preparing for this day, even though they had never met an alien before. Every asteroid mining station was also a fortress. Every civilian facility had hidden weapons. Every human in space was also a soldier. Alien fleet is now at optimal range, the tactical officer announced. Lisa thought about Jake Morrison and his crew, who had died to give Earth this warning. She thought about every human child who would grow up free because of what happened in the next few minutes. All stations, light them up. The moon itself seemed to explode as thousands of concealed weapons opened fire. Railgun slugs traveling at incredible speed smashed into alien ships. Missile swarms launched from hidden silos, each missile guided by human pilots who had trained their entire lives for this battle. But the moon was just the beginning. Sam Turner, commanding Asteroid Base 7, watched his screens as his installation revealed its true nature. What the aliens had thought was a simple mining operation was actually a fortress with enough firepower to destroy a city. "This is for Jake Morrison," Sam said as he fired his main guns. Pete Davis, aboard Mining Platform 12, coordinated with 17 other hidden bases scattered throughout the asteroid belt. Each platform had been built to look like civilian equipment while carrying military-grade weapons. "All platforms synchronize strike," Pete ordered. "Let's show these things what happens when you threaten Earth." The Zephyrian fleet found itself caught in a killing field. Weapons fire came from every direction. Ships that looked like harmless space rocks turned out to be weapons platforms. Civilian installations revealed hidden missile batteries. Even the human transport ships joined the battle, each one carrying enough firepower to threaten an alien cruiser. Admiral Kethavar watched in horror as his fleet died around him. Ships that had conquered worlds were torn apart by human weapons that seemed to come from everywhere. His tactical display showed attacks coming from the moon, from asteroids, from what looked like empty space. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence showed a primitive civilization with limited space capabilities." His science officer, still alive on a damaged ship, sent a desperate report. "Admiral, the humans have turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Every installation has hidden weapons. Every civilian facility is also military." Kethvar realized the terrible truth. The humans had not just prepared for war, they had built their entire civilization around the idea that someday, someone might threaten them. Every mining operation was also a weapons platform. Every transport ship was also a warship. Every human in space was also a warrior ready to die for their world. The battle lasted only 17 minutes. When it ended, fewer than 20 Zephyrian ships remained functional. The proud invasion fleet that had conquered 12 worlds was scattered debris floating in human space. Colonel Lisa Hayes watched the surviving alien ships trying to escape. Her weapons could destroy them all, but she had orders to let some survive. "Let them go," she ordered. "Make sure they have good recordings of what happened here." The fleeing aliens would carry word back to their government about what they had found at the edge of the galaxy. They would tell other species about the humans who had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. They would spread the story of a species that did not just fight to win, but fought to make sure their enemies could never threaten them again. Admiral Kethvar, aboard one of the few surviving ships, stared at the debris field that had once been his fleet. The humans were already moving salvage vessels to collect alien technology and prisoners. They worked with the efficiency of people who had planned for this exact situation. His communications officer managed to establish contact with the human forces. A woman appeared on his screen wearing a simple military uniform. She looked tired but satisfied. "This is Colonel Lisa Hayes of Earth Defense Command. Admiral Kethvar, you and your surviving personnel are prisoners of war. You will be treated according to human military law." "How?" Kethvar asked, still unable to understand what had happened. "Your species was not supposed to be capable of this." Colonel Hayes smiled, and Kethvar saw something in her expression that made his blood freeze. It was the same look that the human captain had shown just before destroying himself in 3 Zephyrian ships. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that every bully makes. You thought we were weak because we were alone. You never considered that maybe we were alone because we were strong." The transmission ended, leaving Kethvar to contemplate the wreckage of his fleet and the beginning of what he suspected would be a very short war. On Earth, President Martinez addressed the world. "My fellow humans, we have been attacked by an alien force that sought to conquer our world. They have learned that humanity will never surrender, never submit, and never forgive threats to our freedom. The war has begun, and we will finish it." The High Council chamber of the Zephyrian Confederation buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 4 different species argued about the disaster in human space. Admiral Kethvar stood before them, his once proud uniform torn and stained from his recent captivity. Counselor Vexai of the Alteran traders clicked his mandibles in dismissal. One lost fleet proves nothing. The humans simply had better defensive preparations than expected. We have thousands of ships across our territories. The Nexari diplomat, Ambassador Keldan, nodded his bulbous head in agreement. Admiral Cathvar clearly underestimated a primitive species. This embarrassment does not represent a genuine threat to our Confederation. Dr. Zeftai, the Vorten scientist, reviewed data on his tablet. My analysis shows the humans possess technology only slightly more advanced than our projections indicated. With proper preparation, they can be conquered. Kethavar listened to their dismissal of his warnings and felt a growing sense of doom. These beings had never faced the cold determination he had seen in human eyes. They did not understand what they were about to unleash. Honored counselors, he said, you do not comprehend what I witnessed. The humans did not simply defend their world. They converted their entire civilization into a military force. Every civilian was also a soldier. Every building was also a fortress. Counselor Vexahai waved a clawed hand. Exaggeration born from trauma. No species can maintain such total militarization. It would destroy their economy and culture. Unless, Cathvar said quietly, being ready for war is their culture. On Earth, General Kate Sullivan stood in the war room studying holographic displays of Confederation space. 3 weeks had passed since the alien invasion attempt, and human intelligence services had been very busy. The captured alien technology had given them access to the enemy's communication networks, supply routes, and military installations. Report, she ordered as Admiral Roy Chen entered the room. The aliens think we're still primitive, Chen said with satisfaction. Their communications show they're planning a much larger invasion force. They expect us to stay in our solar system and wait for them. General Sullivan smiled. How wrong they are? Dr. Foster, what's the status on our new toys? Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her workstation where she was coordinating with teams across the solar system. We've reverse-engineered their faster-than-light travel, their shields, and their weapon systems. The engineering teams estimate we're already building better versions of their equipment. How is that possible? Chen asked. This technology should take decades to understand. Because, Dr. Foster explained, we've been thinking about these problems for 50 years. We just never had examples to work from. Once we saw how they solved faster-than-light travel, our theoretical physicist had working prototypes in a week. General Sullivan studied the star map showing Confederation territory. 17 different star systems, each one defended by what the aliens considered overwhelming military force. The Confederation had ruled this region of space for over 200 years, growing fat and lazy on easy conquests. They made one critical mistake, she said. They showed us where they live. Captain Nick Carter commanded the UES Retribution, one of 12 new ships built using captured alien technology improved by human engineering. His target was the Alteran trade hub at Proxima Station, a massive commercial center that supplied 3 star systems. Captain, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting the station ahead. No military escorts visible. Nick studied the display showing the alien trading post. It was enormous, probably home to millions of beings, but it had minimal defenses. The Confederation had grown so confident in their military superiority that they barely protected their civilian installations. Open a channel to all ships, Nick ordered. This is Carter. Remember, we're not here to conquer territory. We're here to send a message. The 12 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation around Proxima Station. The alien traders were caught completely by surprise. Their defensive systems were designed to prevent smuggling and piracy, not military assault. Alien Station, this is Captain Carter of the Earth Defense Force. You have 10 minutes to evacuate all civilian personnel before we destroy your military and industrial facilities. The reply came quickly from the station commander, a panicked Alteran trader named Feltalk. Human vessel, this is a civilian commercial station. We are not military targets. You're right, Nick replied. But your government attacked our world. Every facility that supports your war machine is now a legitimate target. 9 minutes, 30 seconds. Across Confederation space, similar scenes played out simultaneously. Human fleets appeared without warning at supply depots, communication centers, and military outposts. The attacks were perfectly coordinated, hitting targets that would cripple the Confederation's ability to wage war without causing massive civilian casualties. At the Forton Research Station near Kepler 442, Commander Sarah Blake led the assault on the facility that developed new weapons for the Confederation military. "This is for Jake Morrison and his crew," she said as human ships systematically destroyed every laboratory and weapons development center. The Nexari diplomatic station at Wolf 359 found itself surrounded by human ships commanded by Captain Tom Rodriguez. "Your diplomats can leave safely," he broadcast. "But your spy networks and military intelligence operations end today." Within 6 hours, the Confederation lost 47 major installations across 17 star systems. The attacks were surgical, professional, and absolutely devastating to their military infrastructure. Back in the Confederation capital, the High Council finally began to understand the scope of the disaster. Councillor Vexhai stared at reports flooding in from across their territory. How did they coordinate attacks across such vast distances? He asked. It should be impossible for a species limited to one solar system. Dr. Zeftai looked up from his analysis with growing horror. Because they're not limited to one solar system anymore. They've been using our own communication networks to map our entire territory. They know where everything is. Ambassador Keldon tried to maintain diplomatic composure. "We should open negotiations. Offer them territory, resources, whatever they want." Admiral Kethvar, who had been ignored during the previous meetings, stepped forward. "You still don't understand. They don't want our territory or our resources. They want to make sure we can never threaten them again." "What does that mean?" Councillor Vexhai demanded. "It means," Kethvar said slowly, "that they're going to keep attacking until we no longer exist as a military threat. They're not trying to conquer us. They're trying to eliminate us." On the bridge of his flagship, Nick Carter received new orders from Earth Command. The next phase of operations was beginning. Human fleets were moving deeper into Confederation space, targeting the shipyards and military academies that train the next generation of alien warriors. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 17 different alien systems." Nick thought about Jake Morrison, who had died to warn Earth about the alien threat. He thought about every human child who would grow up safe because of what they accomplished today. "Ignore the surrender offers," he ordered. "We're not interested in their surrender. We're interested in making sure they never have the ability to threaten anyone ever again." The human fleet moved deeper into enemy territory, leaving destroyed military installations behind them. The aliens were learning a hard lesson about the difference between conquest and elimination. Humans didn't fight to win territory. They fought to win wars. Councillor Zeftai of the Nexari stood nervously in the airlock of the neutral station at Tau Ceti, waiting to meet with the human representative. 6 weeks had passed since the humans began their systematic destruction of Confederation military assets. 47 installations destroyed, 12 shipyards eliminated, and countless supply lines severed. The Confederation was bleeding resources and losing the war. The human who entered the meeting room was nothing like what Zeftai expected. Ambassador Mary Clark was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and kind eyes. She looked like someone who might teach children or work in a library. She certainly did not look like a representative of the terrifying species that was dismantling his civilization, piece by piece. "Councillor Zeftai," Mary said politely, taking a seat across from him. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Ambassador Clark, I come bearing an offer of complete surrender from the Confederation High Council. We will withdraw all military forces, pay reparations, and recognize human sovereignty over any territory you claim." Mary smiled sadly. "I appreciate the offer, Counselor, but I'm afraid that's not going to be sufficient." Zeftai felt his heart sink. "What more could you possibly want? We are offering total capitulation." "The problem," Mary explained, "is that you're thinking about this wrong. You believe this is a war for territory or resources. It's not. Then what is it?" Mary's expression hardened slightly. "This is a war for the future safety of our children. Your government threatened to destroy our world and enslave our people. That's not something we can forgive or forget." "But we've already lost," Zeftai protested. "Our military is in ruins. We pose no threat to you." "Today, yes. But what about tomorrow? What about in 50 years when you've rebuilt your fleets? What about in 100 years when you might decide to try again?" Mary leaned forward. "Counselor, your species has conquered 12 different worlds. You've enslaved entire populations. Do you really think we're going to trust you to honor a peace treaty? Zefte realized with growing horror that the human was serious. What are you saying? I'm saying that your government's ability to wage war must be permanently eliminated. We will not allow the threat of another attack to hang over our children's future. While diplomacy failed at Tau Ceti, the remaining Confederation military forces prepared for what they hoped would be a decisive counterattack. Admiral Kethvar, recently escaped from human captivity, found himself in command of the largest fleet the Confederation could assemble. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we have gathered ships from every system, 230 vessels, including our 3 remaining dreadnoughts. Kethvar studied the fleet composition. It was impressive, but he had learned to fear human tactical innovation. What is our target? The human homeworld, sir. Intelligence suggests their fleets are scattered across our territory. If we strike at Earth directly, we can force them to negotiate. Kethvar wanted to explain that humans did not negotiate when their homeworld was threatened. They simply killed everything that threatened it. But the High Council had ordered this attack, and he was a soldier. Set course for the Sol system, he ordered. The Confederation fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space, expecting to find Earth defended by whatever ships the humans had kept in reserve. Instead, they found something that defied all military logic. Admiral, the sensor officer reported, voice shaking. The entire inner solar system has been fortified. Kethvar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Mars had been converted into a massive fortress world, its surface covered with weapons installations and defensive shields. Venus showed similar modifications. The asteroid belt had been completely militarized with weapons platforms disguised as space rocks. How many defensive installations are we detecting? He asked. Over 3,000 confirmed weapons platforms, sir. The humans have turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Captain Drew Miller commanded Fortress Mars from his underground command center. Around him, thousands of human defenders prepared for the largest battle in their species' history. The red planet's surface bristled with railguns, missile batteries, and energy weapons that could reach across the solar system. All stations. This is Miller. Enemy fleet detected at the system's edge. Execute Plan Omega. Commander Beth Torres, controlling Venus Prime's massive orbital defense grid, coordinated with Drew as weapon systems across 2 planets came online. Drew, Venus batteries are locked and loaded. We can cover the approach vectors from here to Earth. Understood. Beth, let's show these things what happens when they threaten our home. The Confederation fleet advanced toward Earth, expecting to fight through whatever defenses the humans had managed to construct. Instead, they found themselves facing the most heavily fortified star system in galactic history. Mars opened fire first. Massive railguns hurled projectiles across millions of kilometers, while missile swarms launched from hidden silos. Venus followed seconds later, its weapons platforms adding their firepower to the deadly barrage. But the real surprise came from the asteroid belt. What the aliens had thought were space rocks revealed themselves as weapons platforms, each one controlled by human crews who had spent months preparing for this battle. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez, commanding Asteroid Station Alpha, watched his displays as the human defensive grid came to life. All right, people, this is what we trained for. Let's send these invaders home in boxes. The battle was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The Confederation fleet found themselves fighting not just ships but an entire star system that had been converted into a weapon. Every planet was a fortress. Every asteroid was a gun platform. Every piece of space debris might hide a missile launcher. Admiral Kethvar watched his fleet die around him as human weapons fire came from every direction. The 3 massive dreadnoughts that were supposed to guarantee victory were torn apart by coordinated fire from Mars and Venus. Smaller ships simply vanished under the overwhelming defensive. Barrage! Admiral, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the human forces. The main screen showed a human woman in military uniform. Behind her, Kethvar could see displays showing the systematic destruction of his fleet. This is General Kate Sullivan of Earth Defense Command. Admiral Kethvar, you have lost this battle in this war. I'm offering you one chance to surrender your remaining forces. Kethvar looked around his bridge at the few surviving officers. Outside, his once mighty fleet was scattered wreckage floating in human space. What are your terms? Unconditional surrender of all Confederation military forces. complete disarmament of your species, acceptance of human oversight of your government, and if we refuse, General Sullivan's expression did not change. Then we continue this war until every Confederation military installation has been destroyed, and your species can never threaten anyone again. Kethvar realized that the humans were not bluffing. They had converted their entire civilization into a military machine, capable of fighting the entire galaxy if necessary. They would never stop, never compromise, and never forgive. I surrender my remaining forces, he said quietly. Wise choice, Admiral. Your surviving personnel will be treated as prisoners of war according to human military law. As the few remaining Confederation ships powered down their weapons, General Sullivan turned to her staff. Send word to our fleets in Confederation space. The enemy's main force has been defeated. Begin the final phase of operations. Across the galaxy, human forces received the signal to begin the complete dismantling of the Confederation's military infrastructure. Shipyards, training academies, weapons research facilities, and command centers were systematically destroyed. The war that had begun with an alien threat to enslave humanity was ending with the complete elimination of the Confederation as a military power. The humans had not simply won. They had made sure their enemy could never threaten anyone ever again. On Earth, President Martinez addressed the world once more. My fellow humans, the immediate threat to our world has ended. But our work is not finished. We must ensure that no species ever again has the power to threaten the freedom of innocent people anywhere in the galaxy. Admiral Kethvar sat in his detention cell on Europa and stared at the wall. 6 months had passed since the destruction of the Confederation fleet at Earth. Through the small window, he could see human ships coming and going from the orbital facilities that surrounded Jupiter's moon. The humans had converted Europa into their primary prisoner of war processing center, but they had also built schools, hospitals, and recreational facilities for the defeated aliens. It was confusing. The humans had fought with a ruthlessness that terrified every species in the galaxy, but they treated their prisoners with unexpected kindness. The food was good, medical care was excellent, and the guards were polite and professional. The door to his cell opened and Commander Paul Jackson entered. The human officer had visited Kethvar several times over the past months, sometimes to ask questions about Confederation military procedures, sometimes just to talk. "Good morning, Admiral," Paul said, taking a seat across from the former Confederation commander. "I have some news you might find interesting. About my people, about your former empire. As of yesterday, the last Confederation military installation has been destroyed or captured. Your government has officially surrendered all claims to military authority." Kethvar nodded slowly. He had expected this news for weeks. "What happens to my people now?" Paul consulted his tablet. "The Zephyrians will be relocated to their homeworld and 3 colony systems. You'll be allowed to maintain civilian government and cultural institutions. However, all military technology and weapons manufacturing will be prohibited." "And the other species?" "The Alterans are already establishing new trade relationships with human companies. The Nexari have requested permission to continue their diplomatic work under human oversight. The Vorthans want to join our scientific research programs." Kethvar was surprised. "They're collaborating with you?" "Admiral, I think you misunderstood our intentions from the beginning. We didn't want to conquer the galaxy. We wanted to eliminate threats to peaceful species everywhere." Paul activated his tablet's holographic display, showing a map of the former Confederation territory. "Dr. Lucy Bennett's archaeological teams have been studying your former colonies. Do you know what they found?" "I assume evidence of our military occupation." "Evidence of genocide," Paul said quietly. 12 different species completely wiped out, 17 others enslaved or driven from their homeworlds. The Confederation wasn't just an empire, Admiral. It was a machine for destroying civilizations. Kethvar felt sick. He had always known the Confederation was aggressive, but he had never realized the full scope of their crimes. "I didn't know. I believe you. Most of your military personnel seem to have been told they were bringing order to primitive species. The truth was carefully hidden from frontline soldiers." Paul showed him images of former Confederation worlds where human teams were working alongside liberated populations. "These are the Kalari. Your people enslaved them 40 years ago. They're now building their first independent government in 2 generations. More images showed similar scenes across dozens of worlds. Species that had been conquered by the Confederation were being helped to rebuild their civilizations. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to repair damaged ecosystems. Human doctors treated diseases that had been ignored under Confederation rule. Why? Kethvar asked. Why help them? You could simply rule them yourselves. Paul smiled. Because that's not what we fought for. We fought to protect the innocent from bullies like your old government. These people deserve the chance to determine their own future. Fleet Admiral Tony Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Liberation as it approached the Kepler 438 system. His ship was part of a new type of human fleet, one designed not for conquest, but for protection and exploration. Admiral, his science officer reported, "We're receiving a distress signal from the third planet." Tony studied the display showing the alien world. According to intelligence reports, this system had been outside Confederation territory, but recent evidence suggested another aggressive species might be threatening the local population. What do we know about the inhabitants? The Rillan are a peaceful agricultural species with no military technology. They're being attacked by something called the hegemony, which appears to be similar to the old Confederation. Tony nodded. This was exactly the type of situation the new Terran protection fleets had been created to handle. Set course for the planet. Send a message to the Rillan government that help is on the way. Dr. Lucy Bennett worked in her laboratory aboard the research vessel Discovery, analyzing artifacts recovered from a former Confederation world. Her team had been documenting the crimes of the old regime, while also studying the cultures that had been destroyed. Dr. Bennett, her assistant called. We've received another request for assistance. The Zeltron survivors want help rebuilding their library system. Lucy smiled. The Zeltron had been scholars and philosophers before the Confederation arrived. Their entire civilization had been built around the preservation and sharing of knowledge. The aliens had destroyed most of their libraries and universities, but the survivors were eager to rebuild. Tell them we'll send a cultural restoration team next week, she said, and ask if they need any of our archaeological data about their pre-Confederation settlements. This was the part of the job Lucy loved most. Instead of studying dead civilizations, she was helping living ones reclaim their heritage and build better futures. On Earth, President Martinez met with the Global Defense Council to discuss humanity's expanding role in galactic affairs. The room contained representatives from every human nation, along with holographic displays showing human activities across 47 star systems. Report on current operations, Martinez requested. General Kate Sullivan stood and activated the main display. Terran protection fleets are currently active in 17 systems, providing security for species that were previously threatened by aggressive neighbors. Our engineering corps is helping to rebuild infrastructure on 23 liberated worlds. Medical teams are addressing health crises on 8 planets. Any signs of new military threats? 3 potential aggressors have been identified. The hegemony in the outer spiral arm, the Dominion near the galactic core, and something called the Collective in the unexplored regions. All appear to operate similarly to the old Confederation. President Martinez studied the galactic map showing the extent of human influence. It was vast, but it was also voluntary. Every world under human protection had requested their assistance. Admiral Rodriguez reports that the hegemony attacked the Rillan system yesterday, General Sullivan continued. His fleet intervened and destroyed the attacking force. The hegemony has been warned that further aggression will result in the same fate as the Confederation. Good. What about our former enemies? The Zephyrians are adapting well to peaceful governance. The Alterans have become some of our most reliable trading partners. The Nixari are helping us establish diplomatic relations with dozens of new species. The Vorthans are contributing to our research programs. President Martinez nodded with satisfaction. So the former Confederation species are becoming productive members of the galactic community? More than that, sir. They're helping us identify other species that need protection from aggressive neighbors. The galaxy is a dangerous place, but we're making it safer. Admiral Kethvar was released from detention after 8 months, along with most other Confederation prisoners who had shown genuine remorse for their actions. He returned to his homeworld to find a society that was struggling to adapt to peace, but seemed hopeful about the future. His nephew, a young Zephyrian named Velkar, met him at the spaceport. Uncle, you should see what the humans have built here. They helped us construct new schools, hospitals, and research centers. They say we can be anything we want. as long as we don't hurt others. Kethvar looked around at his homeworld with new eyes. The military installations were gone, replaced with parks and civilian buildings. Zephyrian children played in areas that had once been weapons testing grounds. The air smelled cleaner without the pollution from arms factories. "Uncle," Velkar continued, "I've been accepted into the new engineering program. I want to learn how to build things instead of destroying them." That evening, Kethvar watched the sunset from his family's home and thought about the war that had changed everything. The humans had taught the galaxy a harsh lesson about the consequences of aggression, but they had also shown that former enemies could become allies. A human transport ship passed overhead, probably carrying supplies to one of the aid missions in nearby systems. The sight no longer filled him with fear or resentment. Instead, he felt something he had never expected to feel about the species that had destroyed his empire: gratitude. The humans had ended the Confederation's reign of terror and given his people the chance to become something better. They had turned the galaxy's greatest monsters into protectors of the innocent. And they had done it all because one human captain named Jake Morrison had chosen to die fighting rather than live as a slave. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, other species were learning the same lesson the Confederation had learned: threaten the innocent, and humanity will find you. But help the innocent and humanity will stand beside you.